The roar of the motorcycle echoed like thunder across the small gas station as the man everyone called Razor pulled in, his leather vest flashing the unmistakable insignia of the Hells Angels. People glanced his way and instantly looked down, pretending not to stare. Children moved closer to their parents, cashiers stiffened behind counters, and the world seemed to shrink around the hard, battle-worn biker who carried the weight of his old sins like chains wrapped around his soul. But that morning, as he killed the engine and removed his helmet, his hardened eyes fell on something he never expected, a tiny girl standing alone near the air pump, holding a wrinkled $5 bill in her trembling hand. And in that instant, before she even spoke, Razor felt something inside him shift, like fate itself had just tapped him on the shoulder. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Razor tried to ignore her at first, busying himself with checking the straps on his bike. He had lived a life where softness had no place, where every day was about survival, loyalty, or revenge. But the little girl didn't go away. She stood there silently, her small sneakers dusty, her shirt slightly oversized, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail that looked like it had been fixed in a hurry. There was something strange in her stillness, a quiet bravery that felt out of place in a child so young. Finally, she mustered the courage and stepped closer, holding the $5 bill out to him, as if offering a treaty between two worlds that were never meant to meet. Razor didn't know why he took the money. Maybe curiosity grabbed him. Maybe fate did. But the moment he closed his rough fingers around that crumpled bill, the girl asked him for something so unexpected it sliced right through the armor he had built all his life. She asked him to walk her into the hospital across the street and pretend to be her dad for a moment because she needed someone, anyone, to stand with her for a doctor's meeting about her sick mother, and the nurse wouldn't let her in alone. Her voice was quiet, almost swallowed by the passing cars, but her desperation was loud enough to shake him. He felt punched. A man who had been in fights, wars, and situations that would break most people suddenly found himself unable to breathe. This wasn't the kind of fear he knew. This was something worse, the fear of innocence being forced to grow up too fast. He didn't understand why a child had no one else. A father gone? Family broken? A mother fighting for life? Razor wasn't used to asking questions about other people's pain, but something in that girl's eyes wouldn't let him turn away. He walked her across the street. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. But the girl stayed close, walking with a trust that felt undeserved. Inside the hospital, the bright white light stabbed at his senses, making him feel even more out of place in his leather vest and worn boots. People stared, whispering, judging, but for the first time in his life, Razor didn't care. The girl needed him, and that was enough. When the nurse saw them, her suspicion faded just enough to let them through, assuming the biker was her father. Razor felt the weight of that assumption fall heavily on him, an identity he never imagined but, for a moment, wished he deserved. Inside the consultation room, Razor stood behind the little girl as the doctor explained her mother's condition. The words were cold and clinical, but the message was devastating. Her mother was in critical condition, her heart failing, the future uncertain. Razor watched the girl clutch the edge of her shirt, forcing herself to stay strong. No tears. No panic. Just quiet endurance. That alone shattered him more than anything had before. He realized this child had been carrying her world alone for far too long. When they stepped out of the room, the girl thanked him in a shy, soft way that felt too mature for her age. She tried to hand him back the $5, saying she didn't need him anymore, but Razor couldn't take it. He gently pressed the money back into her palm and then did something he hadn't done in years. He knelt down, looked her in the eyes, and asked her if she had eaten, where she was staying, who was helping her. Her answers were short, hesitant, but enough to paint a heartbreaking picture. Her mother had been sick for months. Her relatives had drifted away. She stayed with neighbors when things got bad. She had learned to take care of herself because no one else could. Something inside Razor broke open, something buried beneath years of anger, mistakes, and regret. Maybe he wasn't a father, but at that moment, he wished he could be something steady for this girl even if it was just for one day. He stayed with her for hours, buying her lunch, talking to the nurses, making sure someone would look after her. He even spoke with the doctor privately, learning more about the mother's treatment and quietly offering to cover medical expenses without revealing it to the girl. Razor had money, more than people thought. But this was the first time he spent it on something that actually mattered. Over the next weeks, Razor visited often. He brought groceries, toys, warm clothes, and even repaired the neighbor's broken fence to make their home safer for the girl. People began whispering differently about him, not with fear, but with surprise. He didn't care. All he cared about was that every time he walked into the hospital, the little girl's face lit up with a trust and joy he never thought someone like him could earn. A hardened biker had become her anchor, and she had become his reminder that even the toughest hearts can be softened by pure innocence. When her mother finally woke up after a long surgery and saw Razor sitting beside her daughter, she cried, not from fear of the biker, but from relief that someone had protected her child. Razor simply nodded, not wanting praise. He didn't do it for that. He did it because that small girl with the $5 bill had shown him a version of himself he didn't know existed. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps more people experience these emotional stories. Speech balloon. Before you continue, comment below, do you believe one small act of kindness can completely change a person's life? In the end, Razor kept the $5 bill she gave him. Not as payment, but as a reminder of the moment a little girl bought him something no one else ever had, a reason to become a better man. And every time he looked at it, he remembered that sometimes the strongest angels don't have wings, they ride motorcycles.